go.
Hello guys, Mr. Austin 1990 here. It's going to be another video from myself. Back-to-back days, holy shit. But today's video, we're going to be doing, or we're going to be looking at, I should say, some of the players around who've been around for years, some of them come out currently. Basically, why I'm doing this video is because, of course, a lot of money is being thrown around in the world of football at the moment. And I'm going to take a look back at some of the deals which potentially, looking at them at the time, looked like a good deal for the right money or the right kind of potential, and they didn't kind of live up to the hype. Now, there's going to be two different varieties to this video, so if you see a player and you think, what the hell is he in there for, I'll either explain that at the time or understand it now. Basically, there's going to be people who had good potential coming into that club and didn't live up to it and then went elsewhere. And there's also going to be the category of players who cost a lot of money, potentially used to be good in the past, cost a lot of money and then did not live up to the price tag going into it. So maybe you understand that going into the video. If you can smash a like button, that'd be absolutely amazing. We're going to kick things off with Bebe from Manchester United. Now, I say from Manchester United, he's currently Ibar, I think it is. There's a little picture on the screen now. There'll be his Wikipedia profile on the right hand side, a picture of him, and of course his name, Bebe. He did go to Manchester United in 2010, and he was labelled as one of the players likely to replace Ronaldo. Now, as much as Man U fans at the time probably didn't believe that, and it never actually came into consideration, he was Portuguese and he was a similar type of player, potentially being a forward or a winger. When he went to Manchester United, like I said, he was labelled. They did try and sign a few players to replace Ronaldo, of course, you had to. And they took a chance on a couple of young players. He did not work out for them. He's gone on after that, as you can see. He went to Besiktas on loan a little bit. He went to Benfica, didn't really play. Currently at Ibar, doesn't look like he's having a fantastic time there. You could potentially call him a flop. What do you make of that one? In the comment section below, let me know. Moving on to the next one, and that is going to be SAMBA. Now, if you remember this guy, this is just a random, kind of like a Easter egg one, you could say. Now, I don't know if he was ever good in real life, but there was a game called Championship Manager, which I used to play a lot on the original Xbox, I think it was. I used to play it. It was probably on PC and whatnot as well. But there was a guy called SAMBA, and he was outstanding. Every single save you did, he was always brilliant. Now, I'm convinced it was somebody who used to, do Football Manager or Championship Manager, whichever. I think pretty sure it was Championship Manager. Not too sure if they're exactly the same game or not, but I don't think the Championship Manager is around anymore. Football Manager is the one around at the moment. But I'm convinced that a fan of him or their team, it was Millwall at the time, I do believe, in their youth team, kind of like looked at him and thought, let's just make him cracking on the game. He might not be any good in real life, but let's just make him a really good talent on the game for banter. Like, I don't know if you remember one of the early FIFAs, a guy called Matteo Brighi was the best player in the game, even though he probably wasn't the best player in real life, and they admitted that in the system, a fan of Parma, I think it was at the time, put him in there as a kind of like an Easter egg kind of joke thing. And also another game you might remember on PC, it might be showing my age a bit now, but Premier Manager on PC, 97 I do believe it was, when I was 7 years old, that game was out. But there was a guy called Stuart Taylor, I do believe, who was always like the best player in the game. And they're the kind of Easter eggs going around. So was SAMBA really a flop? He went on to play for Plymouth Argyle, which is my local-ish team. I'm from Cornwall, and they're from Devon. I do support Leeds, though. But Plymouth Argyle did play for then. I don't know if you can count him as a flop because of I don't know what his potential in real life was. So let me know in the comment section below if you've ever heard of him. If not, then you won't understand that. But just Google his name, and you'll understand. It's SAMBA, if you want to look him up. We're going on to the next one now, and that is going to be MACHEDA. Now, there is a few Man United players in here, and I do apologise for that. You guys know I'm a Leeds fan. I'm not keen on Manchester United, but that isn't. These all aren't from me. These are information I've got from the internet. Myself and my Twitter followers have kind of said amongst them as well. But MACHEDA, you can kind of understand where the flop kind of thing comes from. He broke on the scene. I think he scored 2 in a game against, was it Aston Villa? I can't exactly remember, quote me if I'm wrong there. But he looked brilliant. I'm not going to lie, I was watching it as just a random fan of football. I watched that game and he genuinely looked like a talent at the time. And it never really happened for him, did it? As you can see by his number of loan moves there, potentially going into the lower leagues a little bit with his likes of QPR, Doncaster, Birmingham, etc. And he got his move to Cardiff, didn't exactly set the world alight there either, went on loan to Nottingham Forest, currently at Navarra, doing okay with 7 goals in 21 games. But again, you can kind of say his potential is dying a little bit. Still 25, he may rekindle some kind of glory days yet, but I can't see it personally, and I kind of think his moment's gone. But there you go, hopefully he proves me wrong. Okay, so moving on to the next one, and we have Nicholas BENDTNER. Now, this is a strange one. A lot of people mention this guy, but is he technically a flop? He did manage to do all right at certain clubs, getting that big loan move to Juventus from Arsenal, of course. But I think the more the fact that people label him as a flop, because he considered himself one of the best players in the world. He literally said that about himself, and it never was the case. He never was that good. He was decent in some games. You know, he's a 6'4" striker. He did throw himself around up front a little bit, but definitely not lived up to his own viewing of himself, his own potential, and for that reason you could put him under the flop category. He is currently at Rosenborg, scored 9 goals in 19 games, which isn't terrible. In fact, it's pretty darn good. But we're moving on to the next player now, which is going to be Thomas BROLIN. What a picture! What a picture! I know that is a picture of him in his older days. I think that was kind of a recent-ish photo, actually. He's 47 now, as you can see by his date of birth on the Wikipedia stats there. He did. This is going to be one I know myself, and I've heard from being a Leeds fan, of course. Now, he was labelled a fantastic signing when Leeds bought him, if I'm not mistaken. As you can see by some of his stats, Palmer stats, not bad. I think he's more of a midfielder than a striker, but I might be wrong there. I didn't know too much about him as a 5-year-old when they bought him, so I wasn't really knowing a lot, if that makes sense. So, of course, that makes sense. But you can see by the stats after he was at Leeds, you can see by his stats going into the Sweden game. Sweden at the bottom there, 1995 was his last game for Sweden. Ironically, that was when he signed for Leeds. He got labelled as putting on a lot of weight, and for whatever reason, I don't know if it was a disability of some sort, or he just, you know, fancy some burgers like I do. But he didn't live up to the hype of when Leeds bought him, because Leeds bought him as a star, and he ended up being, you know, this. So moving on to the next player now, which is going to be Andy Carroll. Now, this is into the ability of the not necessarily the flops, but you kind of got to understand that Liverpool paid a massive amount for Andy Carroll, and he did not live up to the hype that they wanted him to live up to. He was their replacement, or the signing they made at least, after Fernando Torres left the club. And yeah, he wasn't great, was he, for them? He did okay in a couple of games, gone on to West Ham now. He's doing all right for West Ham, an injury. You know, he's got a lot of injuries to his name, which hasn't helped his career, but I think it's time to label him a flop, really, in the sense that he did cost, I think, was it 50 million or was it 40? I can't remember exactly how much it was. It was a lot of dollar, and that was a few years back now as well, 2011, so holy crap. It was mental. Moving on to the next player now, which is going to be, Roberto Soldado. I was going to call him Roberto Rodado then, but that doesn't make sense. Roberto Soldado. Now, again, a big money move to Tottenham from Valencia, and it didn't work out at all for him. He had a shocking time at Tottenham. I think it took him ages to score his first goal, or at least his first couple of goals. It took him a long, long time. Currently playing for Fenerbahce. I think that by looks of it, looks like a new transfer this season. No games yet, and number 99. But, you know, it just didn't work out for him. He was decent. As you can see, his Valencia stats is pretty impressive, actually, at 59 goals in 101 games. That's actually a pretty decent record. Fair play to him. But his Tottenham won 7 goals in 52 games. Not great from a striker at any level, really. You don't want to be doing that. That's not great, but I think we can definitely label him a flop for his time at Tottenham. The next player on your list is going to be SHEVCHENKO. Now, don't get me wrong. Legend. Brilliant player. Milan stats, crazy. But when he got that big money move to Chelsea, it just did not work out for him in the slightest. So that's why he's in this video. No hate, please, because I think he's a fantastic player when he was in his prime. But the Chelsea move just did not work out for him. Spent 3 seasons there, as you can see. Had a loan spell at Milan, where again, didn't score in 18 games. Just something happened, and it did not end for him well. But of course, at the Milan originally, before the Chelsea, it was a phenomenal time for him in particular. You know, I don't know what happened there. I don't know if he just didn't suit the Premier League or whatnot, but this happens to a few players, and he's in this video for that exact reason. The next player is, of course, Fernando Torres. We did mention him before, but again, phenomenal player when he was at Atletico Madrid and Liverpool, one of the best players in the world at that time. But that move to Chelsea absolutely ruined him. Emotionally, he wasn't the same player at all. And I got to admit, I was one of the people to jump on him and just say he's utter shit, but he was never utter shit. That's just not right to say. He was a phenomenal player. He's back at Atletico Madrid now doing all right, but he's a bit older now at 33, so you can kind of say he's declining. Of course he is. But when he was at Liverpool, he was meant to have been in his prime he was in his prime at Liverpool, sorry. When he went to Chelsea, he was meant to be in his prime. It just did not work out for him for whatever reason. Maybe Chelsea and strikers just don't go well, but you can say, of course, Costa. Watch out Morata. You could be on this list in a few years' time, but hopefully not for his sake. But, yeah, pretty impressive at Liverpool. Not great at Chelsea. What do you guys make of that one? Now, the final one is the one which I think everybody can relate to, and that is Freddy. If you don't know who this guy is, he was labelled one of the best potential players ever. Now, he was labelled the next Pele, if I'm not mistaken, the next everybody. You name it, he was the next it, because he was literally meant to be the best thing ever. He got trials at Manchester United, if I'm not mistaken, and 1 point play for DC United. And he just did not work out for him for whatever reason. It backtracked immensely. He went from potentially amazing to potentially dogshite. It was literally crazy. As you can see there, he got some decent moves at Benfica, Monaco on loan there. As it's going down a bit. He is still only 28, which is crazy to think, because I feel like he's been around forever. And for whatever reason, like I said before, it just didn't work out for him. A wasted talent, you could say, which is a shame, because it would have been nice, obviously, for him and for everyone else if he managed to live up to the potential. He may well be one of the best players in the world right now, but that is not the case. You're looking at the Neymars. They have potential and they're living up to it. That is going to be it for this video, guys. If you have enjoyed it, a like would be absolutely fantastic. Something a little bit different from me. You might not disagree. You might disagree with some of these. You might agree with some of these. There will be a part 2 to this because there's a lot more to go through in a couple of days if I can get around to doing it. If you guys enjoy this video, then of course I will do a part 2. If you don't, then I probably won't do the part 2. But hopefully you have enjoyed it. Like I said before, leave a like, subscribe if you're new. I'll catch you next time, and bye-bye.